Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. This video is the second part of a series in which we are developing some sort of a real-time application using Laravel Reverb and tools around in the Laravel ecosystem. In the previous video, we've just talked about the project and basically had our standard installation of Laravel. And in this video, we're going to continue with setting up the project and talking about the data structure or the initial data structure that I have in mind. As I mentioned before in the previous video, this series will talk you through in a way how I basically think. That means I won't be planning and structuring everything up front. Instead, we will come up with the idea and figure out things along the way. And I think this will give you a closer and more realistic understanding of how implementing new stuff works. So, in the previous video, we've been talking about the project. I've made some minor changes to that for now. In terms of, previously we said we're going to have some sort of like a chat room and to chat. I've changed that to a structure in which we will have conversations with other people. So what I'm imagining is something like the Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. And ideally I want to have like a two-side screen where I have like a split screen, and when I type on the left screen I want to show it up straight on the right screen and the other way around. So I've changed that here. Basically, the requirements are still the same, just with a different wording. And the other thing that I've done is I've come and created a small set of how I think the initial data structure is looking like. Pretty straightforward. We've got the users on this side, and then each user will have a conversation that is connected to another user. So we've got this conversation user table that's basically the intermediate table for a many-to-many relationship between users and conversations. And then each conversation can have loads of messages that can be from user A or user B, depending on who's written what, but they belong to the same conversation. And then later on, we will probably be able to do things like fetching the latest conversation message when we display things on the UI. But for now, I've got this simple structure, and I think in this video we will be installing Laravel Reverb for now and also set up our database structure or the model structure. So let's get started. I think the first thing we want to do is, I'm on the broadcasting section of the Laravel documentation, and when we scroll down we will do the install broadcasting step here. So let me go to my terminal and let's run this thing and see. Do you want to install Laravel Reverb? Yes. And then it's going to install a bunch of things. And then would you like to install and build the node dependencies? We will do yes, because as we talked about in the previous series episode, we want to use Laravel Echo here as well, and this is basically it. So let's press yes. It will do the stuff and it will build, and that should be it in terms of setting things up. And if we look at the changed files, we've got Laravel Reverb installed. So I will mark this as let's call this install Reverb. Then on the package side, you will see we have got Laravel Echo and Pusher.js, which we still need here as the Laravel Reverb is basically pusher friendly. So add echo, and then we will, let's add this to the Git thing as well. Add to-dos, and you will see here we've got our channels routes file that's new. We will basically use it later on, so for now I will just commit it, and that also means in our routing providers we will have this channels set up as well. So let's commit this. For now this is going to be good. Add channels route file. We will have our basic echo set up, and what I will do here is, I think if we go to echo bootstrap, first of all I'm going to change this to TypeScript, and that means I will go to global and change this to also have pusher in here. Window.pusher and window.echo as well. Echo, and this will be an echo instance, and this will be a pusher. And why is this complaining now? Type of push. So this needs to be something like type of pusher, and now it's fine. And let's set this up as well. And the other thing I want to do here is basically I'm also going to, like, our main file here is only importing bootstrap, so I will do something like import echo. So now we have this echo set up in our bootstrap file as well, and we can basically now commit this, say configure echo, and then finally we've got our default broadcasting configs, and in here we also have our reverb config, as we basically said we want to have later, and our reverb config is here as well. So for now I'm gonna just leave it as is and commit this, add broadcasting configs, there we go. And then when we scroll down we will basically read through and see what we need to do. So let's scroll down. We've done this, as this was part of our default, and then let's scroll down. Where is the reverb set up? Do I need to search for reverb itself? Laravel Reverb. There you go. So, in order to establish a connection to Reverb, a set of Reverb application credentials must be exchanged. So, you may define these using the following environment variables. Let's do this. So, in our .env file, we will go ahead and add some reverb. Oh, we've got them already here. So all good. We will stick to these for now, but if you want to, you can always update this later. So you'll see, we've done this now. You will probably also need to update this later, but for now, I think we can, if we go into our Reverb config, we will see that, where is the allowed origins? Let me search for it. We've allowed everything, but if you push this to production, you probably want to make sure that you have a set of origins defined rather than allowing it coming from everywhere. And right now we've only got one app ID, which is fine. The app ID is called 258574, which is also fine. And that's it for now in terms of config. So the next thing I want to do here is, before we dive into Reverb specific things, I want to start creating the database setup. So the first thing I want to do here is, let me go to my end file and change database to SQLite, which is already there. And then in database, I also have my SQLite in here. So when I run let's say everything is committed, artisan migrate fresh, you will see that I have my users table created. And let's have a look inside, because this is the default users table, migrations. We've got a name, an email verified, add password, all good. And I think this is fine for now. But before we do this, let's go in here and also add Laravel Breeze. I think I've done that. Did I do that in the previous? Yes, I did that already, so I don't need to do anything here. If I go to real-time app.test, yes, we've got registration and login on. So all good. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start with the conversations table. So one thing you can do is artisan make and then migration, and I can do model, and then I can do conversation. And if I do -m, what we will get is it will also automatically create the migration with it. So here you go. Created the model for us, and it created the migration as well. So let's go into the code. Let's have a look. And for now, the conversation is basically nothing else than an ID and a timestamp. And I don't think we need anything in here for now, but we might add things later. So I will just commit this. How is it? Treasure box. Yeah, this is it. I usually don't know what emoji I want to use, like how it's called, because it's usually coming up in my defaults. But let's call it at conversations table. And the next thing we want to do is create this one here. This doesn't have a model. It will only have it's basically just connecting these two. So what we want to do here is a make, and then we will call it migration, and then create conversation user table. It will create the migration for us, and in here what we're gonna do is foreign ID 4, and then we will call it, oh no, we have to do something else, because we will have let's call it it's an integer. No, actually we can do this. Okay, let me try this out. Foreign ID 4, and then we want to call this we want to have this for the users table class. Did we import the users table? Yes, we did. And what we want to do is we want to specify this as user A, because we will have another user B as well. You could do something like sender and receiver, but since this is not going to be like a one-directional conversation, let's call it just user A and B basically. And let me run the migration just to be sure that it's working. And it is creating the tables we want to do, so we are good here. Let's do this conversation user table, and finally let's add the messages model. So we've got a model called message, and this one is going to be straightforward. Foreign ID for our conversation model, which we already created earlier. All right. Is this going to work? A migrate, and it does. So let's commit this. Add messages table. One thing you will notice is I've created a, where did I do this? I created a message model, and we have that model in app models message as a singular, but the table is automatically a messages table as a plural, so it already sticks to the Laravel conventions, and this will come in handy because you won't have this weird typo and then you spend ages figuring out how things work. So what I will also quickly do is I will do public function conversation, and this is a belongs to relationship which returns a this belongs to and then conversation. There you go. And we can do the same thing here as well. The inversion is a public function messages which returns a has many relationship, and this has many message. And we can do the, oh yeah, we should return, oh, this is where typing comes in handy. We should do the same thing for users. So we can do public function user A belongs to many return this dot belongs to many, and then user, and we also want to do our table is conversation user. Can I do name properties? Let's try this out. Related key is user A. Oh, this works. But let's not mix this up. So let's change this to related and then related key. And we can do the same thing for user B. So let's do user B related and user B. And then for a user, let's do a public function messages, oh no, conversations, and belongs to many. And now we've set up basically, when I finish this up, I've set up all our relationships. So belongs to many, conversation model. So now we should be able to fetch basically conversations for a user. We should be able to fetch the users of a conversation using this setup here. And we should also be able to fetch a message of a conversation. I think for now this is it. And in the next episode, what we're going to do is we will set up some seeds and basically dummy values using factories. And then we will see if we are actually retrieving the right values, and we will confirm that this setup here actually works. This is it for now though, and I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.